Hello, and welcome to another Pandokrator podcast. This time, I'm really happy to have another session with Julia Souder. Last time we spoke to Julia was over 2.5 years ago. Julia, as you know, is the CEO of the LDES Council and also the Vice Chair of the Global Renewables Alliance. And it's great to have you back, Julia. I'm surprised at how, 2.5 years have just flown by. I mean, so quickly. And when you think of what's happened in that intervening period, it's just huge. But, welcome.
Thank you. It's great to be back. I can't believe how much time flies when you're having fun, but we are definitely in a new era. So it's great to be reconnected again, Andre. Thank you so much.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think it'd be helpful to kind of, since you joined the LDS Council, maybe refresh people kind of what you've been doing and kind of how it's evolved over since you joined almost 3 years ago.
It's been a whirlwind, but we've been making great strides in success of really moving to educating and advancing policies to support the scale of long duration energy storage. The Long Duration Energy Storage Council, it's the global voice, really ensuring that we are keeping power and heat available exactly when it's needed. So for multiple hours, days, and even weeks. And what we're doing is we're bringing together technology providers, utilities, energy companies, policymakers, investors, and major customers around one shared goal. So we are showing that to scale LDES, it's essential to provide the infrastructure for flexibility, reliability, affordability, and security. Because without long duration storage, you have a mismatch of demand and supply. And we're really trying to demonstrate that industries will lose reliability without long duration energy storage. So our work is about collaboration, market growth, and really securing the policies and finance to scale long duration energy storage.
Yeah, and that's a tall task, isn't it? And I see that you've set up businesses in Europe, in India even. We met with your folks there, but it's really the touch points you've got is not just investors and companies, but it's policymakers and the legal framework. And so and I think over that period, people have woken up to the fact that storage is the big thing, right? And you're right in the hot spot. And have you seen a sort of a growing awareness or sense of urgency and real momentum? Because I think that's kind of what you and I've talked about in the past is momentum.
Yes, I think that the wake up call has been that every industry needs energy storage and particularly long duration energy storage for those multiple days, weeks, months, and seasons to deal not just with the weather patterns and intermittency, but also about the growing demand, whether it's in AI and data centers and hyperscalers or air conditioning units, and whether it's just again this need for electrification. Energy really needs to give power to hospitals, transportation hubs, to communities, to industry customers, to every walk of life really needs this new element of flexibility. So you have, again, that resiliency. And I think this kind of missing piece has made long duration energy storage such an essential infrastructure.
And we've seen in that intervening period that the kind of the investor awareness and also the tech companies really advance, and some have done incredibly well. So it's really about execution. But so maybe turn to something a little more topical. I see you're fresh off a flight from Davos, and we were all glued to our screens this year for Davos, but you were in the thick of it. Tell us a little bit about kind of what you were hearing and seeing generally, but also specifically as it pertains to what you're doing.
Sure. Davos was incredibly important because it's where all the capital and policy leaders were coming together to talk about what's going to scale next, what is the next big thing, and how to really connect policy with financing. The geopolitical theme and underpinning just energy that was there caused a lot of kind of roller coasters of emotions and just kind of, the volatility was real and it was really stressful at times. I think what was really important was that, through the geopolitical pressures, energy security was up front and center. And so what does that mean for, healthcare, for electrification, for economic competitiveness and national resilience. So we started to notice how, again, we got a lot of questions about how do you create this system central infrastructure and how is energy storage an essential component and how do we bring more financing to ensure that we can scale. So we really started talking about the pace of deployment, the sense of urgency that is really starting to help create a new market design and better integrated system planning. And then also what does it look like to have that homegrown reliability system that, again, long duration energy storage can provide for the energy security piece. So a lot of conversations about volatility, a lot of conversations about how to both, protect national interests, but also really touch into global markets because of the interdependency of how we really all are addressing the geopolitical shocks that affect markets and demand everywhere.
Julia, this was the first year, I believe, that the LDES Council was invited to Davos. Is that right?
It is. It is the first time that Long Duration Energy Storage Council was officially there. We've had our members and board members attend before, but it was definitely an eye-opening experience for me.
And so it's interesting because as you mentioned earlier, energy has become a really important, a critical item, whether it's security or affordability of energy. But it seems that the noise it's getting bigger and bigger each year.
And that's a great kind of perspective because I think even for me, it was exciting to hear so many different stakeholders, different decision makers bring up the need for energy storage to address energy security and reliability, electrification. I mean, you have the AI and data centers and hyperscalers is a huge part of the conversations, but you also had representatives from Africa. I mean, there's an Africa House, there's an India House, you had Nigeria House, South Africa House, you had a Belgium House, you had all these different government officials working with, not policymakers, but financiers to say, how do we address this growing need and demand? How do we and then the kind of reality of how energy storage is a strategic asset, and then how to look at the different barriers to bring finance in to help support energy storage. And I think that was really exciting for me because it was others asking, other key decision makers asking for how to bring in energy solutions to provide that firm and resiliency, that they need, the firm, clean, dispatchable, loads and power and heat, and then also the resilient components of how do we protect our economic homegrown interests, and then how does energy storage provide this kind of continuity. And again, hearing a lot of these countries talk about addressing volatility and how they needed to really address energy security, brought in again the healthcare, the AI, the infrastructure conversations. It was core to every single theme that was rising up in Davos, which I think again just validated how essential energy storage is to energy independence.
Yeah, if you look back at Davos, it used to be talking about financial crises or a war or something. Now, this year seemed energy security or resilience. 'Cause we had a lot of grid failures, is kind of center of the plate. So, what you've been using LDES Council for is kind of your ground, kind of your network. Looks you've just adopted Davos as your network.
Another country, another city on the Switzerland, yes. But I mean, it's so important because we have been, traveling around the world, really having really important conversations with key decision makers and financing and in policymaking, in customers' needs to really bring in that long duration storage is such a critical asset. And again, how to fund it and create the markets so that it can deliver the durable system benefits. And I think this is the aha moment that we're not a niche technology. We are actually essential infrastructure. And then how, when you have essential infrastructure that really supports your livelihoods and communities, how do you continue to grow and support it? And it's fantastic to see energy storage as part of the essential framework.
Yeah, and much like generation, I mean, each country is very, very different. I mean, you
Yes.
mentioned a number of them. India is still energy starved. I mean, they need a lot more to do. But you got parts of, let's say, like Brazil, where they've got too much energy, and other places where it's coming purely from hydro or solar or wind. And so, while there's a generic need for flexibility, the solutions will be kind of grassroots in the way that the kind of needs or what the kind of around the clock, in terms of the energy demand and also the energy generation. So it'd be a kind of a variety of solutions, right, to
Exactly.
suit each local community or country, right?
Yeah, the diversity needed and what long duration storage can provide is really helping provide the kind of smoothness, again, reducing emergency fuel use, making energy costs more predictable for households, industry, and governments, and really bring that resiliency as a new affordability. It's impressive what India has done. They've gone past their halfway mark of over 250 gigawatts of renewables deployed by they want 500 by 2030 and they're
Yeah,
on their way. But
yeah,
again, justifies how essential long duration energy storage is. And we're working with Indian government on a policy paper to really help again merge the markets with the utility needs, with the customers' needs to really again provide that flexibility and reliability. And in amazing as you mentioned Brazil, they've just had their first auction of how to address energy storage, and they're looking at short-term needs and they're looking at long-term needs because they know how important long-duration energy storage is. So those
yeah,
conversations are happening now, and it's
yeah.
looking at South Korea, you're looking at Europe and the flexibility tools, you're looking at calling out different durations for different types of needs for customers and different types of technologies. So this is the game changer from the narrative that we saw in Davos that we're seeing with policymakers and financiers. We're having that collective voice at all different tables now, which is starting
Yeah.
to help build that foundation to again scale long duration storage because it's so essential to infrastructures in every country.
Yeah. It's fascinating when you think back 5, 10 years, energy was something we all took for granted. You just flip the switch and you're done, and you call up your local utility, you're fine. But now with, as you referenced geopolitically, with the energy crisis Europe had, with Ukraine, and now with the kind of added demands on AI, on electrification of mobility or electrification of heat, our good old grid needs to come of age, or needs to sort of get completely revamped, but also double the work it's been doing, the throughput and energy. And so it kind of puts the energy players right in the strategic mix. So you're with government, with AI, with transportation, with so many touch points that it's become like a real strategic partner. And I guess hence the importance of having you guys there at Davos, and then the relevance for it.
It was fantastic to be in the room to have the conversations of how we need to scale long duration storage and how to finance it and what barriers are blocking us to
Mhm.
move policies, and then how do we again have the integrated system, because we can't do A plus B plus C equals Y. It's more like you have to have A and B and C all moving forward together, and that again how long duration storage can really help address the urgency, the blackouts that happen in Europe, the kind of giving that dependability and that security. I like to say that long duration energy storage is like an insurance policy, and really trying to create the right criteria to make sure that it is that homegrown reliability solution.
And also, ultimately, it has a big effect on costs, right? It'll bring energy costs down. I mean, we see such volatility in terms of, you've got a lot of curtailment, but at the same in Europe, and at the same time, you've got, the highest energy prices. Storage seems to be the solution. But did you feel that even from the political circles that, storage is something that needs to go up the agenda?
Definitely. And I think it really again the integration piece was showing that because of the, as you mentioned, the volatility is causing this scarcity, is causing fuel switching, is causing congestion and curtailment and so much unplanned spending that increases risk. We're really demonstrating that, how long duration storage can provide balancing costs because you have the affordability, because you have the resiliency aspect. And I think this is one thing we really tried to show is again, all this pressure that grids are feeling, and because we've taken so much for granted and we have this amazing infrastructure, but it has to scale quickly with this supply and demand that's growing. It's, again, because long duration storage can reduce congestion and, help with curtailment and help shift load across time. I mean, it has this flexibility that really needs to get accounted for and paid for. And this is why we can bring more grid stability if we have the right metrics and market access in place.
Yeah, at the high voltage grid, maybe the average capacity utilization is less than 50%, but we have grid congestion issues. So it's like everyone going to work at 8 in the morning and coming back at 6 in the afternoon. Whereas with storage, you're basically allowing everyone, to spread it evenly right across the whole day, right? And so therefore you don't have a traffic problem, right?
Right. I love that. I love that because I think I was reading a report. The IEA was estimating that there's 3,000 gigawatts of renewable energies that are stuck in interconnection queues. And it's not because the generation's missing. It's because the flexibility is missing. And this is where long duration storage can help be that practical tool to declutter, the congestion, to remove the traffic jams. And I think that's again what brings that affordability that is so important.
And that's the bit that we felt from our side, people need to be aware of, right? Because that's holding up so much investment, right, in generation. And because you can't just solve one part of the equation, it's kind of a whole, you
It's
know, value chain,
it
if you
is,
will.
and I think what's also it's been like 30 years to see this type of growth. I mean, this is what's so exciting for the attention back on this infrastructure that is keeping our livelihoods, progressing. And if just in the next 5 years, I think it's global capacity is supposed to increase by 2.5 times. But because that grid delay and the even microgrids, you just have this 7-year, 8-year delay. This mismatch is also like costing so much. And so it's again, how do we bring these flexible assets like long duration storage into the bankable planning to show that you get your return on investment fast if you bring it into the hybrid scenarios, like make it part of the solution set because it's such a key infrastructure component.
And I'd like to turn a little bit to, because what one is policy and the technology, but everyone then jumps on, well, it needs to be bankable, and we saw with solar in the early days, you get like 20% returns on a project, and then when it became bankable, you were getting 5% returns. So it allowed it to explode. And I know you at the LDES Council have been doing a lot of work on that, and interacting with people right across the financial chain, right from the VCs right to the banks themselves, right? But because the numbers are huge, we're in the trillions, whatever way you look at it, right? And there is a lot of capital out there, but it needs to sort of get comfortable with the proposition, the risks and the returns. So tell us a little bit about kind of what you've seen, how that's evolved.
Sure. It's so important to really merge together the worlds of banking and infrastructure and how long duration storage is becoming more bankable because it's moving from innovation to infrastructure. And we're really demonstrating that the technologies are mature. I mean, there are over 500 long duration energy storage projects deployed in the world that are, planned and providing capacity. That is over, I think it's 9,000 gigawatt hours. And this really demonstrating that this is that we are deployed. We just need to scale. And this is demonstrating how the capital base is shifting. So, it's a lot of venture led projects that really helped, but you're seeing more hybridization. You're seeing project finance come from traditional players because these assets are grid critical. And even if you want to be behind the meter, it's for the industrial customers like cement, steel that are also investing because they see the value add. We're moving away from, just like a first of a kind to more of the really blended finance where you're seeing the public private share risk, which is
Mhm.
again creating system need. It's proven again how undeniable long duration storage is for flexibility and it's becoming a planned priority. So we're decreasing risk by showing how long duration storage is an insurance value add, and we're really creating new financial structures to really promote again scaling long duration storage. So you see examples with Energy Dome and Google or Engie. You're seeing Rondo with cement factories. You're seeing Bryn Miller with whether it's breweries. You're seeing Infinity with Oxford and EV stations. You're seeing Magaldi with Enel Energy. You're seeing 1414 with renewables and solar and bricks. And you're seeing Sumitomo with liquid air. You're seeing Hydrostor with compressed air. Like these projects are they're deployed or moving forward. You're seeing Energy Vault. There's with their hybridization, you're seeing creativity build on existing, kind of formulas and demonstrating that we can address this urgency by, again, supporting not only the data centers, but the mining companies and industrial customers to show that, again, long duration storage provides that round the clock, heat and power exactly when customers need it.
Yeah. And with the bankability thing, it's interesting because you start out by saying, okay, I got a company that can do a battery that could discharge power for this amount of time. But once you start that, you then realize, well, actually, I can also not just sell the power, I can also provide stability services to a grid. I can also provide physical stuff to energy traders, to aggregators. So you start to open up a value equation, which is or a revenue stack. We've seen that in the thermal space, right? So
Exactly.
yeah,
In Europe.
you can just about pay the rent, yeah, with the selling heat, but you've got there's a lot more that comes with it. And I think the players you referenced, they're waking up to that and developing that. But it means that the storage people are now talking to the grid directly. They're talking to energy traders directly. So it kind of goes back a little bit to that the strategic. It's not just a power generator, it's doing a lot more.
It's doing a lot more, I think, is key, and it is corporates are helping demonstrate bankability by providing these long-term offtake agreements. They're co-investing alongside the developers, and you're also seeing the different sovereign-backed guarantees. You're seeing just again the proof points that this demand is real, and that there are like a lot, not just first movers stepping in, but this kind of portfolio and this kind of picturesque approach of really bringing this mainstream infrastructure again forward is so critical. So I just want to echo, like, we're seeing the success in Europe because you can access the market, you can sell back ancillary services and provide additional value add, and we're seeing this grow in United Kingdom and Australia, and we want to see this continue to be a success story in other countries, in India, in United States, Brazil, Africa. It's really important to really continue to expand these marketplaces.
Yeah, and they're all very different, aren't they, the
Yeah.
markets?
And that's okay. It doesn't have to be one size fits all. And that's why the diversity of long duration storage technologies really can meet every need of every industry.
Mm,
And this is why you have to adapt your local security, the national resiliency, that homegrown reliability that long duration storage can provide.
yeah, yeah. Just, I don't know, Julia, if you've got any thoughts on this, but, people looking at the US, I mean, there's a news headline every day. It's hard to keep up, but in our little world, you read about, Google and Microsoft lining up with nuclear facilities and, and needing gigawatts of power. And then you're like, well, where's all that going to come from? But clearly it kind of opens up big opportunities for LDES in the long term, I would have thought, or maybe even the medium term. And I've just wondered whether, given it's getting such headlines, and we are constrained, or seeing that the US is constrained in AI by its access to energy, right? I mean, we're seeing Grok, build up basically um, uh, gas gensets in Tennessee, to get the job done. But but that shows how they're not going to wait. But it means that sense of urgency in the states, and the limited access to power must open up opportunities for players in your sector.
It's huge. It's actually, you know, really helped expedite the need and justify, how not just data centers, but this again growing demand and need. If you're looking at Texas, where a lot of the data centers are growing, you see our members like QuidNet and TerraFlow, XL Batteries. They're all signing deals with data centers to provide that round the clock, certainty, that reliability. And I think again, it's demonstrating the push forward. You're seeing energy intel, and not just the United States, but data centers are growing around the world, and that is really pushing forward, not just having the emerging to the essential. And so it's really also demonstrating that you can have an alternative, affordable, firm-based reliability that's dispatchable and also provides, meeting some of the goals without emissions. So this duration and flexibility demands that are being required by a variety of customers with this huge push by data centers is really kind of highlighting that, this, we're moving beyond pilots. This need is real. The scale is huge, and that long duration storage has the solutions to really provide that flexibility. Because it's really improving the investment case. We're available, and we're now like having to get through the bottlenecks of permitting, interconnection, supply chains, and bankable contracts.
Right. And it sounds, I guess, from my perspective, with the players that are building out the AI data centers, I mean, they got so much to gain there, that really, from a power perspective, it's like, well, you can have the data center, but bring your power too, right? And so in a way, you've opened up this world of energy to investors in AI, who are actually saying, okay, for another 10% more, if I bring the power, I'm good, And so
Blended contracts, blended finance. Yes, lots of
yeah,
opportunities.
yeah. So looking at, just to kind of stepping back and saying, okay, we're already at the end of January now, and kind of just looking ahead into 2026. I mean, so much has changed since New Year's, so it's a little hard to predict, I appreciate. But, I mean, well, maybe start from kind of what would you like to see happen, rather than what you think is going to happen over, let's just say, the 26 in the world of kind of LDES.
I mean, this is the next couple of years are huge for long duration storage. I mean, the need is there. It's really just helping make sure the policies and the markets and the financial tools support the dependability and the abundance that we can provide. And I think it's also really important because there's so much volatility. There's so much uncertainty. There's so many elections. I think so. I heard someone say in Davos over 9,000 elections in the next 5 years. It's just like this turnover, just kind of like instability. At the same side, you have a essential infrastructure tool with long duration storage that can provide stability. And so let's create like the policies and again the financing to make this infrastructure provide the benefits that it can to help customers address affordability. Like, we have this kind of this ongoing pressure of everything is urgent, everything is crazy. Like how do we just kind of keep running on this? It's more than a hamster wheel. It feels like a non roller coaster. And I think it's taking a step back, saying, wait a second, in our portfolio we have again this infrastructure. How can we bring this in and help get it built to provide the value add? So it's being, I think, more creative with public and private partnerships, looking at what we're doing with policy and market creation. And again, really having those conversations about there's a lot of risk in these different buckets. How do we
Yes.
de-risk? And again, bringing in long duration storage is de-risking these scenarios and really addressing the energy shifting and the volatility with providing certainty. And I think, again, it's just like we have the tool, we have the policies and metrics. We just need to make sure we're updating again, how we get access to provide the value add. And whether it's looking at the hyperscalers, data centers, the industrial customers, the increased load of air conditioning because that all the heat that is increasing the world. This is all kind of moving forward, and it's just such a wasted opportunity if we don't jump on really bringing the true benefits of long duration storage to all these different customers. I mean, so I'm excited about the opportunity. A lot of many quotes that there's always an opportunity in crisis, and I feel like we have an amazing infrastructure component with long duration storage that can really help address how demand is changing everything.
And as a kind of word to the investment community, we face off against mainly, whether it's VCs or growth equity guys or, even infra and in some cases debt, you know, I mean, our sense is that they have actually come up the curve dramatically, right, in the
Exactly.
last 3 years. So
Yeah.
this is clearly on the map, but and I know you've done a lot. In fact, your recent report on bankability, I think will push it ahead. And I'd urge anybody listening to this to actually look it up. It's right on the LDES Council website, right? There's a great report. But looking forward, how much more I mean, I'd suspect that the educational level needs to kind of continue to increase in 2026 to get
Exactly.
them, to get them on board. Because I know that there is liquidity out there and people are looking for good returns. Do you see that they they have moved forward and are they there yet, or do we still need to kind of keep pushing?
Keep pushing. I mean, we're focused on accelerating deployment. We're doing continuous work in market and policy work, using these bankability tools and really bringing the ecosystem together so it can really work on how to scale. We need to see long duration storage in the conversations when you're talking about nuclear and, whether it's gas jet turbines, because we are available today. We can be deployed. There's construction happening now to bring these benefits. It is a very normal investable part of all of our energy systems. And I think it's again a missed opportunity because if we're looking at reliability as the foundation and flexibility as the tool, then long duration energy storage is the essential infrastructure that makes this affordable. And we have ways to invest in it. We just need to start really building these, gigawatt factories to become hundreds of gigawatt factories. We're at the precipice, and it's just an amazing opportunity to really invest and really support the markets to really grow LDES to get the benefits.
Yeah, and what we've heard from investors and also potential customers is, I want to see this thing work, right? And if we just did a little kind of digging in the world of thermal storage, and we found that there's, I don't know, 7 or 8 ones up and running already. In the next 12 months, we counted at least 10 or 11 these significant ones of the names
Okay.
you've mentioned. And I'm sure there's more, but in a
Are,
way, it's
yeah.
like, how many more do you need to see? But so
We need
it's
to get
working.
a lot more if we
Yeah,
want to
we need
really
what, but it'll.
touch.
I guess it's. Are we seeing enough? And more like in electrochemical and in mechanical. Do you see also? Because there's a number of names that I think have built stuff out, like maybe Form or ESS. You know, um, because at some point you reach sort of say, well, actually, the industry's there. It's working. What are you waiting for?
Where it is working, and we have so many projects deployed, as I mentioned on our website, you can see our project tracker and you can kind of
Yeah.
follow around the world. But again, we need to get to, we want to see 1.5 terawatts by
Mhm.
2030, and
Yeah.
we're making our headway there because of pumped hydro and compressed air. But we really need to see this diversity of all the projects I mentioned earlier. We're demystifying that this is years away. We're deployed, we're providing benefit. We just need to scale so that the costs continue to come down, and then again, every industry can really see the value of this. An infrastructure component that provides that reliability and flexibility. So we're getting
Yeah.
there. We need more support to, get to the same numbers of what happened with electric vehicles and solar and wind. We're at the like almost the bottom of the hockey stick, rising up,
Yeah.
and we just keep that. We need to be jetpack fueled with all the LDES to just scale to the top.
Yeah, and also, I mean, I've heard from a lot of folks that saying that the LFP is moved from like kind of 4 hours to 8 hours, so it really creates the urgency because in a way, they are competition, but they're also opening up the market, right?
Exactly. Exactly. Oh,
And
that's why I think the market is so big, and there's so much need that we have the diversity of 8, 24, 48, 100-hour and more different types of batteries to address different needs. Whether you're an island or microgrid or completely off grid, we have a variety of solutions that are working today that just need to again, continue to scale so we can provide benefits to every community.
yeah, brilliant, good.
Exciting
Well,
time.
listen,
A lot of
Julia,
hard
I think
work.
it's yeah, and we got a lot to do, but we're kind of, I mean,
Yeah.
halfway. We're right in the thick of it, and it looks like you're having a great time
I
doing
have a
it. You
great
built
team.
a really good team. It's wonderful. So listen,
So
thank you very much, and I'm
thank
sure we're going
you.
to see a lot of you, or I hope we will, in 2026. So thank you,
Look
Julia.
forward to seeing more projects deployed and all the support from the financial industry to really, again, continue to support de-risking LDES because it is such an essential infrastructure component.
Yeah, brilliant.
Thank you, Andre. It's good to see you.
Thank
Look
you.
forward to working with you.
Likewise. Take care. Bye bye.